Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Can you hear me in the back okay? You can. Good. I can kind of see you. There's a lot of you. This is great. There's a lot of people choosing to be a little cold for poetry, which I think is an exceptional choice to make at any moment, but especially this week. So I'm glad you're here. Welcome to the Poetry Center. Welcome to the spring 2025 season at the Poetry Center. Could not be more thrilled to be welcoming poets Katie Farris and Ilya Kaminsky to Tucson, and back to Tucson in some cases. So a round of applause. They've worked very hard to get here, and so we're thrilled that they're here, and they'll be reading tomorrow night in Phoenix with the Piper Center at ASU. So we're happy to have them in Arizona right now. And again, in a week of all weeks, to have poetry to turn to feels especially exciting and valuable and meaningful and earnestly important. My name's Tyler. I work as the director at the Poetry Center, and I just wanted to talk about a couple quick things that are coming up. And because it's the beginning of the season, so many things are coming up. So I'll talk about them really quickly, but I want to make sure, how many of you have seen this before? Many of you? Raise your hands. Good. Everyone who has not seen this yet, this is the calendar of events at the Poetry Center for the spring season. They're around on the table that's outside. There's some up here at the book sales table. This will tell you everything that's happening this season through the Poetry Center. Our website is also a great place to learn about the things that are happening and also to stay up to date if there are changes. So great to always check the website. But many things are coming up, including next week back here at the Poetry Center on Thursday night. We have our Tom Sanders Memorial reading, and we'll be hearing from the poet Kimberly Blazer, whom we're so excited about. She has a tremendous book out from the U of A Press called Ancient Light, along with many other books. We're thrilled to have Kimberly Blazer here at the Poetry Center. On February 13th, we'll be back here at the Poetry Center with the poet Terrence Hayes. He'll be returning to Tucson, and we're really excited about that visit. And then on February 20th, back here again. These are all Thursday nights, 7 o'clock, this space, with the poet Nikki Hurd. It's a really tremendous new book called The Stuff of Hollywood out from Copper Canyon Press. All amazing poets. We're thrilled that they're choosing to come and to spend time with all of us. And I hope to see you back here for those readings as well. There are classes at the Poetry Center every season, and we have some classes that remain open right now, including a class from Nikki Hurd and also a class from our spring poet and residence, Divya Victor. And so if you're interested, if you made a New Year's resolution to do more writing, this is your chance to make good on it. So I hope you'll jump into those classes and come enjoy those experiences that happen here at the Poetry Center. And you can learn more at poetry.arizona.edu. There's an exhibit at the Poetry Center that's up right now that's tremendous. How many of you have seen Mary Ruffles' Erasures exhibit? Good. If you have not, join us. It's an amazing exhibit, and it's up until February 8th. So if you've not seen it yet, I hope you'll spend some time and come and enjoy that before it comes down for what comes next. Likewise, we have a collaboration right now with MoCA Tucson, and there's an exhibit of lifelike poem sculptures from the poet C.A. Conrad. And that exhibit will be up until February 16th. So if you've not had a chance to see that exhibit, I hope you'll take a chance to go catch it before it comes down. C.A. Conrad will be back in town and doing some workshops at MoCA Tucson. If you want to learn about those, go to the MoCA Tucson website to check those out. Those are in early February. There is a haiku contest in downtown Tucson right now, and it is accepting submissions until February 3rd. Our great friend, poet T.C. Tolbert, who's in the back, is judging this contest for the city of Tucson for the Poetry Center. The theme this year is belonging. Hope you might consider submitting work to that contest. Free to submit, and a great way to be a part of a participatory process, thinking about ideas together through poetry. I mentioned books were for sale. If you have money, it's a great thing to spend money on. Books, always good. We're going to skip a Q&A and forego that and just move directly to a kind of book signing line afterwards. So if you're interested in catching up with either Ilya or Katie, come up afterwards, buy a book, and come meet them and talk to them a little bit about their work and about the reading. That's everything I had to say. Everybody doing okay? Good. I'm not going to talk at you anymore about any of that. But I am very excited to introduce my friend and colleague, Julie Swarstad Johnson, who's going to tell us more about the poets tonight. Julie Swarstad Johnson is the archivist and outreach librarian here at the Poetry Center. It is a great joy to work with her every day. She's a tremendous poet. Her book, Pennsylvania Furnace, is wonderful. She's also co-editor of the Poetry of Spaceflight, Beyond Earth's Edge, the Poetry of Spaceflight. Please help me welcome my colleague, Julie Swarstad Johnson.
It's a real pleasure of Tucson to get to stand up and look at this many people here for poetry. So thanks for being here. It's an honor to welcome Ilya Kaminsky back to Tucson. We're so glad you're here. He was last here in April of 2013, and a fun fact, if you've seen the author photo on the back of Deaf Republic, that was taken here at the Poetry Center by Sibel Knowles, and it's a fabulous picture. So Ilya Kaminsky was born in Odessa, Ukraine in 1977, and he arrived to the United States in 1993 when his family was granted asylum by the American government. The foundations and concerns of Kaminsky's work are reflected in that background. The richness of multiple languages and literatures, the experiences of loss and refuge, both of which hold home and exile, and a lifelong commitment to human rights and the work of witnessing. Kaminsky is the author of Dancing in Odessa and Deaf Republic, both award-winning books of poetry that have earned a lasting place in American literature for Kaminsky's exquisite craft and deeply human vision. Dancing in Odessa, published in 2004, speaks to the roots of Kaminsky's life in Ukraine, while Deaf Republic, published in 2019, rises out of his years in the United States. In Deaf Republic, we encounter the heart of Kaminsky's vision, an understanding of people as deeply flawed and absurdly beautiful. We find the depths of loss alongside the astonishing joy of intimacy. These poems take the form of a fable. Deaf Republic is a story in poems. It's the script for a play. It's a mirror that recognizes all that we have to offer as humans, both good and evil. In Kaminsky's poems, we recognize humans as capable of brave speech and action on others' behalf. And we also see ourselves as capable of turning against one another, of turning away unspeaking from violence and oppression. It's a book that questions us by asking us to question ourselves. In Deaf Republic and in Kaminsky's writing broadly, we are asked what we will do with what we witness. Of Ilya Kaminsky, Katie Farris writes this haiku. His left eye closes for the night. His stubborn right, reading. That stubborn, committed reading is evident in Kaminsky's work as a translator, editor, essayist, and champion of world literature. He's the co-editor and co-translator of many books, most recently in The Hour of War, Poems from Ukraine. Translating and highlighting the work of poets from Ukraine has been a major part of Kaminsky's recent work, much of it with Katie Farris. In June 2025, look for their translation, Letters of the Alphabet Go to War, which is an account by Ukrainian poet Leszek Panasiuk of her harrowing experience of living in Bucha, Ukraine, during Russia's brutal occupation. Kaminsky has also created the Odessa Poetry Studio, which supports Ukrainian children by giving them a space in Odessa to gather, write poetry, and share their work with one another. There's much more remarkable work that I could tell you about, but I hope that what you're hearing and what I'm saying is that Kaminsky's work across the board speaks to us and our present moment. Tonight, we'll hear and sit with Kaminsky's Deaf Republic, which is a fable for our times, for us, for here, for now. Please help me welcome Ilya Kaminsky.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful. Thank you. And thank you all for being here. It's a humbling experience to be to this wonderful place. A second time to come back here. Thank you for having me. Truly, it's an honor. It's also humbling because some folks here have known me for a very long time. Cynthia, I wonder, when did we first meet? It was 97, 98? Yeah, thank you for your patience and your kindness, truly. And for your poetry, beautiful poetry. And of course, Eleanor, I wouldn't be standing here without you. Eleanor Wilner, a great American poet. If you don't know her work, please check it out. Just was my first book and kept taking care of my poems very, very patiently and kindly for many years. Thank you. Having said that, I'm just going to read some poems, okay? As you might have noticed, I speak with a pretty heavy accent. So hopefully by the end of the next 24 hours that we spend together, you will also speak with a pretty heavy accent. But just in case you need to follow what I'm saying, the words will be behind me or over there, okay? The first poem is called We Live It Happily During the War. We live it happily during the war. And when they bombed other people's houses, we protested, but not enough. We opposed them, but not enough. I was in my bed. Around my bed, America was falling. Invisible house by invisible house by invisible house. I took a chair outside and watched the sun. In the 6th month of a disastrous rain, in a house of money, in a street of money, in a city of money, in a country of money. Our great country of money. We forgive us, live it happily during the war. What I'm going to read next are some poems from the Republic, which is a story in verse that begins with a pregnant woman and her husband, who in a time of crisis see a soldier shoot and kill a young deaf boy. And in response to that murder, they see the community stand up and protest the authorities by refusing to hear them. Okay? Can you follow me? Deaf Republic, gunshot. Gunshot. Our country is a stage. When soldiers march into town, public assemblies are officially prohibited. But today, neighbors flock to the piano music from Sonia and Alphonse's puppet show in Central Square. Some of us have climbed up into the trees, others hide behind benches and telegraph poles. But Petya, the deaf boy in the front row, sneezes. The surgeon puppet collapses, shrieking. He stands up again, snorting his fist at the laughing audience. An army jeep swerves into the square, disgorging its own surgeon, disperse immediately. Disperse immediately. The puppet mimics in a wooden falsetto. Everyone freezes, except Petya, who keeps giggling. Someone claps a hand over his mouth. The surgeon turns towards the boy, raising his finger. You. The puppet raises a finger. Sonia watches her puppet. The puppet watches the sergeant. The sergeant watches Sonia and Alfonso, but the rest of us watch Petya limp back, gather all this speed in his throat and launch it at the sergeant. The sound we do not hear lifts the gulls of the water. As soldiers march, Alfonso covers the boy's face with a newspaper. 14 people, most of us strangers, watch Sonia kneel by Petya, shot in the middle of the street. She picks up his spectacles, shining like two coins, balances them on his nose, observes this moment, how it convulses. Snow falls, and the dogs run into the streets like medics. 14 of us watch. Sonia kisses his forehead. Her shadow hole torn in the sky, it shimmers the park benches, porchlights we see. In Sonia's open mouth, the nakedness of the whole nation. She stretches out beside the little snowman napping in the middle of the street. as picking up its belly. The country runs. Alfonso in snow. You're alive. I whispered to myself, search for something, and you listened. Something runs down the street, falls, fails to get up, I run, etc. With my legs and my hands behind my pregnant wife, etc. Down Wasenka Street I run. It only takes a few minutes, etc. to make a man. Darkness and insurgency begins. Our country woke up next morning and refused to hear soldiers. In the name of Petya, we refused. At 6 a.m., when soldiers compliment the ghosts in the alleyway, the ghosts slide by, pointing to their ears. At 8, the bakery door is shut and soldiers Ivana face, oh, he's the best customer. At 10, Mama Galia chokes, no one hears you. On the gates of the soldiers' barracks. By 11 a.m., arrests begin. Our hearing does not weaken, but something silent in us strengthens. After curfew, families of the arrested have homemade puppets out of their windows. The streets empty, but for the squeaks of trains and the tap-tap against the buildings of wooden fists and feet. In the ears of the town, snow falls. Alfonso stands answerable. My people, you were really something fucking fun on the morning of the first arrests. Our men once frightened bound to their beds. Now stand up like human masks. Darkness passes through us like a police whistle. Here's and I testify. Each of us comes home, shuts at a wall, at a stove, at a refrigerator, at himself. Forgive me. I wasn't honest with you. Life to you. I stand answerable. I ran, etc. With my legs and my hands, etc. I ran down Wasenka Street, etc. Whoever listened, thank you. For the Father on my tongue, thank you. For our arguments, thank you. For deafness, Lord. Such fire, forever much you never lit. That map upon and opened valves. I watched the sergeant aim. The deaf boy take iron and fire in his mouth. His face and the asphalt, that map of bone, and opened valves. In the air, something in the air wants us too much. The earth is still. The Tiber Guard city cumbered sandwiches its first day. Soldiers examine the ears of bartenders, accountants, soldiers, weekends in silence, dust to soldiers. They tear Gora's wife from her bed like a door of a bus. Observe this moment, how it convulses. The body of the boy lies on the asphalt like a paper clip. The body of the boy lies on the asphalt like the body of a boy. I touch the walls, feel the pulse of the house, and I stay up wordless and do not know why I am alive. We tiptoe the city, Sonia and I, between theaters and gardens and wrought iron gates. Be courageous, we say, but no one is courageous. As a sound we do not hear lifts the birds of the water. Before the war, We made a child. I kissed a woman whose freckles aroused the neighbors. She had a mole on her shoulder, which she displayed like a medal for bravery. Her trembling lips meant come to bed. Her hair would have fallen in the middle of the conversation meant come to bed. I walked in my barber shop of thoughts. Yes, I zipped her off to bed on the chair of my hairy arms, but parted lips meant bite my parted lips lying under the cool sheets. Sonia, the things we did. Soldiers say me dat. Soldiers say me dat. They fire at the crowd of women flees inside the nostrils of searchlights. My God, have a photographs of this. In the piazza's bright air, soldiers track Peter's body and his head bumped the stairs. I feel through my wife's shorts the shape of our child. Soldiers track Peter up the stairs and homeless dogs in as philosophers understand everything. Embark. I now on a bridge with no camouflage of speech, a body wrapping the body of my pregnant wife. Tonight, we don't die. Don't die. The earth is still. A helicopter, a boss, my wife. On earth, a man cannot flip a finger at the sky, because each man is already a finger flipped at the sky. Lullaby. Lullaby. Little daughter, rain, water, snow, and branches protect you. Whitewashed walls and neighbors' hands. Oh, child of my Aprils, little lord of 6 pounds, my white hair keeps you asleep. Lead. Poem, I'm sorry. Yeah. While the child sleeps, Sonia undresses. She scrubs me until I spit soapy water. Big, she smiles. A man should smell better than his country, such as the silence of a woman who speaks against silence, knowing that silence is what moves us to speak. She throws my shoes and glasses in the air. I'm of deaf people and I have no country but a bathtub and an infant and a marriage bed. Soaping together, that is sacred to us. Watching each other's shoulders, you can fuck anyone. But with whom can you see it in water? Poem bombardment. My body runs in a loam of street, my clothes in a pillowcase. I look for a man who looks exactly like me, to give him my Sonia, my name, my shirt. It has begun. Neighbors climb the trolleys at the fish market, breaking all the moments in half. Trolleys parts like intestines in the sun. By well, shuts, I am so fucking beautiful, I cannot stand it. Two boys still holding tomato sandwiches, happen it rolling slides, soldiers same as their faces, their ears. I can't find my wife. Where is my pregnant wife? I, a body, an adult male awaits to explode like a hand grenade. It has begun. I see the blue canary of my country. Big breadcrumbs from each citizen size. Big breadcrumbs from my neighbors. Here, the snow leaves the earth and falls straight up as it should. To have a country so important, to run into walls, into streetlights, into loved ones, as one should. The blue canary of my country runs into walls, into streetlights, into loved ones. The blue canary of my country watches their legs as they run and fall. A cigarette, a cigarette. Watch. Vasenka citizens do not know. They are evidence of happiness. In a time of war, each is a repeated document of laughter. Watch God. They have something to tell that not even they can hear. Climb a roof in the center square of this bombed out city. You will see one neighbor gives a cigarette, another gives a dog a pint of sunlit beer. You will find me, God, like a damn pigeon's beak I am pecking every which way at astonishment. Firing squad. Firing squad. I'm balconies, sunlight. I'm poplar, sunlight on our lips. Today no one is shooting. I go, cause her with imaginary scissors. The scissors in sunlight, her hair in sunlight. Another girl nicks a pair of shoes from a sleeping soldier, covered with light. A soldier swig and gape at us, gaping at Sam. What do they see? Tonight, they shot 50 women at Lorna Street. I sit down to write and tell you what I know. A child learns the world by putting it in her mouth. A girl becomes a woman, and a woman a earth body. They blame you for all things and say, sick in the body. What does not live in the body? The townspeople watch them take Alfonso. Now, each of us is a witness stand. Vasenka watches as watch for soldiers throw Alfonso Brabinski on a sidewalk. We let them take him. All of us covered, but we don't say. We carry in our suitcases, our coat pockets, our nostrils. Across the street they wash him with fire hoses. First he screams and he stops, so much sunlight. A t-shirt falls off a closest line, an old man stops, picks it up, presses it to his face. Neighbors jostle to watch him thrown on a sidewalk like a vaudeville. Ta-da! In so much sunlight, each of us is a witness stand. They take Alfonso, and no one stands up. Our silence stands up for us. All right. I'll just read one more poem before I get out of your hair. And Katie Farris, who's a far more superior poet, in my family for sure, will make your life much more interesting. This one will bring things a lot closer home. It's called In a Time of Peace. In a Time of Peace. And thank you all for being here. Inhabitant of Earth for 40-something years, I once found myself in a peaceful country. I watched neighbors open their phones to watch a cop demanding a man's driver license. And when a man reaches for his wallet, the cop shoots into the car window. Shoots. It's a peaceful country. We pocket our phones and go to the dentist, to pick up the kids from school, to buy shampoo and basil. Ours is a country in which a boy shot by police lies on the pavement. For hours we see in his open mouth the nakedness of the whole nation. We watch others, watch the body of a boy lies on the pavement, exactly like the body of a boy. It is a peaceful country, and it clips our citizens' bodies effortlessly, the way the president's wife trims her toenails. All of us still have to do the hard work of dentist appointments, of remembering to make a summer salad, basil, tomatoes, it is a joy, tomatoes, and a little salt. This is a time of peace. I don't hear gunshots, but watch birds splash over the backyards of the suburbs. How bright is the sky, and the avenue spins and success. How bright is the sky. Forgive me. How bright. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's give another round of applause for Ilya Kaminsky. It's my pleasure now to introduce Katie Farris. At the heart of Katie Farris's most recent book, Standing in the Forest of Being Alive, is an argument in favor of writing love poems, despite the reality of a burning world around us. Farris's assertion rises from a deep familiarity with suffering. Subtitled A Memoir in Poems, Standing in the Forest of Being Alive follows Farris's experiences through stage 3 breast cancer, chemotherapy, mastectomy, radiation, heart failure, and through all, survival. The burning world Farris writes of is also America in the time of pandemic and insurrection. It is the America of gun violence, of money, of health insurances denying coverage, and impersonal voice over the phone pronouncing devastating news. This world is on fire still, all around us, near and far. From these contexts of personal and widespread struggle, Farris writes, one must train oneself to find, in the midst of hell, what isn't hell. This is the spark of Farris's poems. This is what leads to her fierce, tender lines that embody a training of attention to see joy and to offer love back to what burns. Farris trains her attention and our attention through it to the transcendent and absurd joys of the everyday. There are love poems for her husband, for her body, for a purring cat, for Emily Dickinson. They are set at home on the front porch and in bed, in the oncologist's waiting room, and in the long waiting for scan results. Farris's poems also move through dreamlike landscapes of enormous trees and soul-piercing light. Her first book, titled Boys, Girls, inhabits this world of dream and fairy tale. At the book's end, she writes, "These are not stories one can hand to another. One must instead say, the story has been changed. It is my body. Eat from it and live." This is what language can do in Farris's work. We hear it and it can change us. We offer it to others as a source of life in the midst of a world on fire. In addition to standing in the forest of being alive and Boys, Girls, Katie Farris is also the author of 3 chapbooks. She has co-translated books of poetry from the Ukrainian, French, Chinese, and Russian. She's a professor of creative writing at Princeton. Please join me in welcoming Katie Farris.
What an amazing community. It's such an honor to be here with all of you and in the same space, our bodies in the same space, appreciating things together. It's just lovely, lovely. Thank you so much, Julie, for those beautiful introductions. And thank you, Tyler and Cynthia and Eleanor and Paula and lots of other people who have made this such a pleasure. And thank you also for the students in our class this morning that we got to visit. It was so fun to chat with all of you. You had such great questions. I'm just absolutely in love with this place. As was my grandfather, actually, who lived here in Tucson until his death in 2021, actually on January 21st, just a couple of days ago. So I'm going to read just a small poem for him. My step-grandmother, who I got to visit today, wasn't able to come and be in the audience, but I'm thinking about you, Dee, and thinking about you too, Grandpa. This is called "The Year Not Long Enough to Measure His Single Death." On the vanishing sand of Lake, so this is set in Sarnia, Ontario, which is sort of north of Bay City, Michigan, which is where my family is from, and they snowbirded down here to Tucson. On the vanishing sand of Lake Huron, 20 women line up by blood or marriage to practice their piercing pig calls. 50 years after our last farm sold their fields to the beach. Suey! And the men and children fling their shoes, show off their brightest underpants, and hop in dusty tater sacks for the prize of a Kentucky Fried Chicken, potato salad, and lime jello with shreds of carrot. It's the Midwest. This is how my family has prayed for over 100 years. The highest holy day, the first Saturday of August, the date chosen for a constellation of birthdays until his death. Remember this year, dog-ear the placement of the planets, triangulate the position of every bovine in Ontario, his red swim trunks still soaking the wooden floor, his ashes swimming back on every wave toward shore. He was a veterinarian also, hence the bovine. Somebody once said, "I think your grandpa knows every cow between Bay City and Sarnia, Ontario," and it's probably true. And he knocked them all up. Not to boast, but you know. Thank you so much, Julie, also for mentioning In the Hour of War. This is poetry from Ukraine. So I'm going to read this one poem by Lysiuk Panasyuk, whose sort of chapbook of poems will be coming out in a couple of months now. But this poem just for him and in recognition of what continues to happen in Ukraine. In the hospital rooms of my country, letters of the alphabet go to war clinging to one another, standing up, forming words no one wants to shout, sentences that are blown by the mines in the avenues, stories shelled by multiple rocket launches. A Ukrainian word is ambushed. Through the broken window of the letter A, other countries watch how the letter E loses its head, how the roof of the letter M falls through. And the language in a time of war can't be understood. Inside this sentence is a hole. No one wants to die. No one speaks. By the hospital bed of the letter E lies a prosthesis it's too shy to use. You can see the light through the clumsily sewn up holes of the letter F. The soft sign has its tongue torn out due to disagreements regarding the etymology of torture. There is too much alphabet in the hospital rooms of my country. Too much alphabet, no place to stick an apostrophe. Paint falls off the walls, showering us with words incomprehensible, like men who, in wartime, refuse to speak. Okay. So I will be reading to you tonight from my book of poems called Standing in the Forest of Being Alive. And it will be an exciting time for all of us because you have a selection of poems that will appear on the screen before me and to my side. But in point of fact, I could not find which poems they are. So I will be learning right alongside of you tonight. I put it in a place where I would be sure to find it. That's always a good idea, right? So this is called Why Write Love Poetry in a Burning World. Why write love poetry in a burning world? To train myself to find in the midst of hell what isn't hell. The body bald, cancerous, but still beautiful enough to imagine living, the body washing the body, replacing a loose front porch step, the body chewing what it takes to keep a body going. This scene has a tune, a language I can read, a door I cannot close. I stand within its wedge, a shield. Why write love poetry in a burning world? To train myself in the midst of a burning world, to offer poems of love to a burning world. All right, tell it slant. The word spiculated in this poem just means spiky. It's doctorese for spiky, but you know, if you have to go to school that long, you should be allowed to add a couple of syllables to a word if you want, so that's fine. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else you need to know. Carcinoma is a cancerous solid tumor, basically. I think that's everything. Oh, and Emily Dickinson, of course, patron saint of all of us who struggle with illness and poetry, she said to tell the truth, but tell it slant. So this is Tell It Slant. You float in the MRI gloam, several spiculated masses. I name you cactus. Carcinoma be damned. You make a desert of all of me. Have I said it slant enough? Here's a shot between the eyes. 6 days before my 37th birthday, a stranger called and said, "You have cancer, unfortunately," and then hung up the phone. I had the incredible, beyond my wildest dreams, privilege of having an op-ed published in the New York Times about a month before my book came out, and seeing my name in that font made me, I don't think I even realized it had its own font till that moment. You know, I was like, oh my God, there it is in the font. I think it said, Miss Farris is a poet. Okay, sure, yeah, now I am. And the editor at the New York Times, they do a very thorough fact check. Like, I'm pretty sure they called up my kindergarten teacher about this New York Times op-ed that I did. And one of the things they did was they were like, okay, we've been hunting this down and we can't seem to find the person who called you. And this seems very abrupt, like not something that would actually happen. You have cancer, unfortunately, and then hung up the phone. And I said, no, actually, it was a slightly longer conversation than that. I said, can you give me any more information? And this person said, no, someone will contact you in 2 weeks. And then they hung up the phone. So I think it was perhaps actually I might have made it better in the telling than the actual experience, but it was very important for me because I learned something that I'd never learned how to do before, which is in the face of, and keep in mind, this was August 2020, right? This was pre-vaccine. This was the sort of second spike of the pandemic, not nearly as big as what was to come. But it was a stressful time to be in healthcare, right? But at that time, I got up, wiped my, I cried a little. Okay, I cried a little, and then I got up and I got dressed and I drove directly to the oncology center, and I went up to the front desk and said, I don't have an appointment, but I'll be sitting over there, and no rush. I know you guys are busy, but if anybody has time during the course of today, I will be sitting over here because I need to talk to somebody. I cannot wait for 2 weeks to learn more about the situation. And that was when I learned the beginning of how I learned to advocate for myself, medically speaking. And I mention it because I think it's important, because I didn't know, my family didn't have a lot of money. We did not go to doctors very often, and to learn that it's important to learn how to advocate for yourself medically, it's like, I want to pass that on to people who might not know, because I did not know. All right, this is called When You Walk Over the Earth. And I don't think you need to know anything. When you walk over the earth, it asserts itself. It says to your feet, here, here, here. You must reckon with the earth, though it enters you less, unless. The sky always has its hand in you, as if you were a puppet, through your ears, down your throat, into your lungs, and with the tips of its fingers there, it caresses every capillary, each blood cell, until they blush. All right, we're going in order that makes it easy. So a port is basically for chemotherapy, for certain kinds of chemotherapy. Instead of giving you an IV, they will actually put a pump that goes directly through your aorta into your heart. And that is because the chemotherapy, some chemotherapies are so toxic to your body, they basically fry your veins as they go to your heart. So your aorta's big enough to be able to withstand that. And is there anything else? No. On the morning of the port surgery, and this is the first step for some of us in our cancer treatments. So this was my first step in cancer treatment. Before dawn, I walk outside the clock. I strip and fold my clothes into a bag, surrender my braid. I'm wheeled into the operating theater for the opening act of what will become a defining role, cancer patient, stage 3. Oh, feather-headed mongrel, my pickled, flea-bit heart, thrice sword, stabbed, please keep beating. Ungraceful, the heart boinks. Drugged, suspended, spider-webbed. So I mentioned the braid in that poem, and I'll mention it in this. So now comes the point where I get to do the show and tell part. So the cover of the book is actually my braid and my arm holding it. So if that gives an illustration. In the event of my death, yeah. What used to be a rope descending my vertebrae to the basement of my spine grows thin. In solidarity with my first chemotherapy, our cat leaves her whiskers on the hardwood floor. I gather them, each pure white parenthesis, and plant them in the throat of the earth. In quarantine, I learned to trim your barbarian hair. Now it stands always on end, a salute to my superior Barbary skills. In the event of my death, promise you will find my heavy braid and bury it. I will need a rope to let me down into the earth. I've hidden others strategically around the globe, a net to catch my body in its weaving. The man you are, the boy you are. The man you are opens the door to your anguish, a mirror of my own. We've both grown silver around the eyes. But in your pocket, the boy you are brings me a melted candy bar. You issue commands like an old man, then take out my trash like a young boy with a crush. If marriage is a series of increasing intimacies, a slow, sweet collapse into oneness, I would still beg your forgiveness for asking your assistance unwinding that pale hair from my hemorrhoid. Just not enough hemorrhoid poems out there. I'm just doing my part, really, to make sure the full human experience is put before you. In the early days of a global pandemic, I can't stop writing about love while everyone is writing about a country. Everywhere in America, is everywhere America yet? In America, which is to say everywhere, Americans are spreading rumors, writing about a country as if a country existed in the midst of a global pandemic, about its citizens as if we were visible, while America, which is an idea in our grasp, twists itself into an eagle, condenses into a bowl of hot chicken soup, then a factory never retrofitted to make ventilators, then $1 trillion, then fresh water, then salt water, then salt. That used to be $1 billion. And then I started feeling like this is too old of a reference, but like there was a movie where the punchline was like, I want $1 million. And everybody's like, and what else? And I realized billion was not nearly enough. All right, so Emily Dickinson is kind of the patron saint of this book. She kind of ghosts in and out periodically. The reason why is because I did indeed finish reading my book of Emily Dickinson's poem in the oncologist's waiting room, along with a few other books of poems. But this is written, if you are a meter nerd, this is written in Emily Dickinson's ballad meter, more or less. If you want to talk about the title, which is extremely nerdy, I'd be happy to do that after the reading. It takes a long time. Finishing Emily Dickinson, first deacon in William Blake's Church of the Marriage of Heaven and Hell in the oncologist's waiting room. Oh, Emily, goodbye. We met in February and parted in July. I meet your sweet velocity in everything that flies, in mote and star and sphere, in bird and phosphorus of God. Oblique, you preached obliquity, your body steeple for the church of mystery, your bell rings on beyond. This is called Outside Atlanta Cancer Care, and I am obsessed with a couple of scientific things, and this is one of my scientific things that I can't get over. Outside Atlanta Cancer Care. I return to this point of wonder. What kind of animal began to stand on such small feet? And only 2? What vertical absurdity, what upright madness. Perhaps we were imitating the trees, lifting our arms, wishing for roots, and then just forgot to set ourselves back down on our 4 more rational feet. Our longing grew our fingers longer, twigs into branches. For if you long hard enough, do you not find fruit in your palms? I return to this point of wonder. And think about kangaroos, okay? Kangaroos are also bipedal, but have you seen the size of their feet? They are enormous. The amount of pressure we carry per square inch in our feet is stupid. There's a reason we're all walking around with back aches. Okay, I'm over it, maybe. An unexpected turn of events midway through chemotherapy. I'd like some sex, please. I'm not too picky. After all, have you seen me? So skinny you could shiv me with me. Philosexual, soft and gentle, a real straight fucking, rhymed or metrical. Whatever you've got, I'll take it, just so long as we're naked. Oh, I went backwards, or did I? Okay, this is Eros haiku. No, pirate haiku. Sorry, pirate haiku. 4 a.m. His left eye closes for the night. His stubborn right, reading. A week before surgery, I practiced my body. This has kind of a lengthy gloss for a short poem. So I read, there's a wonderful poet whose name is Tamaj Shalamun, and he is a very lively and eclectic poet with this incredible vocabulary. It's like words that you've heard in every corner of the world come sort of raining down. And I love him. And he once said in one of his poems that the painter Giotto, he used his sketches of sheep in order to make his paintings of angels. I've looked at a lot of Giotto's paintings subsequently. I haven't seen anything very sheepy or sheepish about the angels, but he told me, so I'm telling you, it's a poetry fact. Do with that what you will. Secondly, Jonah, you may be familiar with his story from the Old Testament. So Jonah was a prophet, and his job was to tell people that God was the one, but he did not like the gig. It was kind of dark. If you want more information, you can read the Old Testament. But basically, when he decided he wanted to run away from the circus, he was on a boat, and there came a storm, and he fell off the boat, and he was swallowed by the whale. And while he was in there, he had a change of heart. And so, happy ending to the story, the whale vomited him up on the shore. So there you go. Apparently, did you guys read this? It was like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. There was a man who claimed that he was actually swallowed by a whale, and also, so it's a thing, it happens. And finally, if you're ever walking down the beach and you come across this sort of grayish, yellowish lump, it doesn't look like much, but it smells absolutely ambrosial, give me a call. What you've just found is ambergris, and it is one of the rarest and most precious ingredients in perfumery. It also happens to be, and this is not a poetry fact, this is a bankable real fact, it also happens to be whale vomit. A week before surgery, I practice my body. Like Giotto's angels sketched from his studies of sheep, I open the jaws of my back to the sky, eating my body deeper into this blue. Like Jonah, vomited from the whale, fragrant as ambergris, or plain as any woman who, a week before mastectomy, practices being opened. Logically enough, now we move after the mastectomy. And this begins with a little scene that happened in real life. At the oncologist's office, a man stares. I stare back until he says, "People must stare at you." Why bother closing a door when everyone demands it open? I go into the world with my tongue out and my shirt unbuttoned, my keys left in the lock, a 6-inch scar instead of a nipple. How can a watchtower hide? I am well positioned to seek out fires in invading hordes, my bald head, the beacon, the first alarm. Woman with amputated breast awaits PET scan results. So typically the way it goes when you have cancer is that you, depending on how fast your tumor grows, you have your surgery to remove the tumor, amputation, whatever it happens to be, and then they do an analysis, a pathology report. And in that pathology report in breast cancer and many other forms of cancer, they note whether or not the cancer has spread into your lymph nodes. Once the cancer is spread into your lymph nodes, the chances are that the lymph nodes are sort of the unsung part of your circulatory system. They're the kind of shadow part of your circulatory system. And because of that, lymph goes everywhere in your body. So if cancer cells are in your lymph nodes, it's very likely, or it's more likely than if they just stay in one place, that it has spread through your body. So at that point, you get a PET scan. So for me, this was after my chemotherapy to try to shrink the tumor, which didn't work. And then after my mastectomy, they found that my cancer had gone into the lymph nodes. And so they did the PET scan results. And at this point, it was 2 weeks between the PET scan and the results, which, at this point, I was waiting to find out. I knew I was stage 3. It was possible I was stage 4, which was an incurable form of cancer. It was a really stressful couple of weeks. And for any of you out there who knows what this is like, I wish you a lifetime of no pets. That's what I call it, no pets. I'm going in for mine on February 6th, so no pets for any of us, no pets. The waiting, sleek as otters, slips between your lips. Without the waiting, who can know when spring will come or snow? Heading south, the geese all beat the waiting with their wings. Turn on the light at 2 a.m. The waiting stands, hand on your head, a most maternal haunting. Swimming, the human body humps along. Each dive in time ends so close to its beginning. Help me to spell waiting. I forget. And whom can I tell how much I want to live? I want to live. A stone, the waiting, weights my body into stone. What's left, almost a palindrome. All right, moving right along. I think I can say at this point, this is probably your 2-poem warning. It's a tradition in the world of poetry that you get the 2-poem warning. I could be wrong though, because I'm on the edge of my seat. I don't know what comes after this. But this is called Standing in the Forest of Being Alive. I stand in the forest of being alive, in one hand a cheap aluminum pot of chicken stock, and in the other a heavy book of titles. Oh, once walking through a cemetery, I became terribly lost and could not speak. No one living knows the grammar. No one could direct me to the grave, so I looked at every name. A heavy bird flapped its wings over someone's sepulcher. Some of us are still putzes in death, catching bird shit on our headstones. Some of us never find what we're looking for, praying it doesn't pour before we find our names, certain we're headed in the right direction. A drizzle begins, and what's nameless inside our veins fluoresces in the rain. Ooh, that took a left turn. I was feeling spicy when I put this together. This is called Said the High Priestess to the Magician. You might have noticed if you're into tarot cards that there have been a couple of tarot references through the course of the poems. I've been reading tarot since I was 15, so I'm a big nerd, is what I am. Okay, Said the High Priestess to the Magician. I'm designed for alone, a lighthouse, I say. His arm around me, arabesque. That's his word. It's too fluty for me. He shifts, adds the flourish of his other arm to my sans serif self, smiles through my grump. He joys me, reluctant, pulls laughter, that red, violet, orange cerulean handkerchief slowly right out of my mouth. To the god of radiation. And I think even if there's one more after this, we'll just stop with this one. To the god of radiation. So my treatment, chemo, mastectomy, PET scan, which came back with no, what they call NED. In breast cancer, you never are in remission, you're NED. Hi, I'm NED. It means no evident disease. So at this point, I'm in radiation. And it was the final, it was like, I don't know, 2 or 3 days from the final day of radiation. And I'd gotten I'd gotten it down. Like radiation, you go in every day for 30 days, except for the weekends. So there's a system. And in this particular place, you walked in, you whipped your shirt off in front of God and everybody. Whoever was in the room, there were 3 people, 8 people, 2 people, no people, didn't matter. Rip your shirt off, lay down, and then they line everything up for you. So I walked into the room already like this, and then my oncologist was in there, which is never a good sign. Also, she had no reason to see any of this at that moment. I was like, oh, hi. Sorry, I didn't know you were going to be in here. And she said, all right, well, we did a scan during your last radiation appointment, and there's a thing in there. There's a bit of mustard. We don't know what it is. It could be cancer. It looks like an inflamed lymph node, or it might just be a bit of inflammation generally. It might not be cancerous, but because of where it is, we can't actually do a biopsy on it. It's too deep into, like, it was almost on my shoulder blade, if you could imagine, going all the way back. And I said, well, okay, well, what can we do about it? And she said, well, we can give it an extra blast of radiation, a booster is what they call it. Some people do them, some people don't. But basically, they go over and above your lifetime allotment of radiation that you're supposed to get in order to hopefully kind of fry it, I guess is the best way to think about it. And she said, the problem is, because of where it is, it's going to go through this portion of your shoulder, basically, where all of your muscles and nerves kind of pass through that. And she said, it's because I had nerve damage from my mastectomy. She said, chances are you won't be able to recover from that fully as a result of this treatment. Also, we don't know, but you could end up with nerve damage in the future. And I was like, well, what is that? Could that look like? And she was like, well, it might just be some stiffness, or you could feel like your arm's on fire for the rest of your life. I was like, oh, great. And she said, and it could happen in 2 days, and it could happen in 20 years. And we don't really understand why this happens. And we don't really understand the mechanisms of it. And we don't really understand. I said, okay, well, what would you do? And I love this oncologist, this radiation oncologist. She said, I have honestly been up all night thinking about what I would tell my daughter or my mother, or what choice I would make myself. And she said, for me, it's as close to 50-50 as anything I've experienced in my career. And I don't feel like it's really right for me to tell you what to do. But I can be honest that I don't know what to do. And that's a hard thing for a doctor to say, I have discovered among my many, many encounters with doctors. And I appreciate her a great deal for that. And that's what this poem is about trying to make that decision. To the god of radiation. Given the unexpected choice between uncertain death, oh, I forgot the punchline. I said, what if we don't radiate it? And she said, well, if it is cancer, if it does turn out to be cancer, we can't perform any more radiation because you have had more than your lifetime's worth. Chemotherapy was unfortunately completely useless against my cancer. It didn't shrink it at all. And they couldn't perform another surgery both because of where it was and because my skin has already been so damaged by radiation. So basically it would be untreatable and would eventually kill me. So sorry, that was an important part of the story. Back to the poem. To the god of radiation. Given the unexpected choice between uncertain death and certain damage, I find in the mirror a woman, breastless, burned, who, in an advisory capacity, asks, how much do you want to live? Enough? O God of radiation, let your light like a ship pass through me, your radiance exposing what's inside me like film a god takes. But must you clatter the eaves of my scapula, scurry the grasshopper nest of my heart, scythe my nerves, and cobweb my muscles to the rungs of my ribs? How much more can one body take? Enough. Light every deadly cell like a wick, burning in the paper lantern of my chest. My chest, a thing so ephemeral, yet held so firmly in your fist. Thank you so much.
Katie, thank you so much. Ilya, thank you so much. One more big round of applause for these poets. To send them well as they go off to Phoenix tomorrow to read more poems. We hope you'll see you next week for Kimberly Blazer's reading back here at the Poetry Center at 7 o'clock. Books are for sale, and I'm sure Katie and Ilya would like to sign them, so come up and buy those. And if you need the calendar, they're around on the table outside, or there's some inside here. Thanks for choosing to come and be a little cold and listen to poems. We'll see you next week.